Hi, Dina, and hi, everyone who's watching today.
Hello, Kirsten. So nice to see you.
Yeah, how are you? You going all right?
I'm fine, thank you. What about you?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Excellent, in fact.
Beautiful.
Great. So, we're here to have this webinar about lots of things. Lots of questions have come in. But I guess in general, it's what is it going to take to improve language skills from intermediate to or advanced to fluent. Did you have a great response as well to your questions?
Yes, I had some questions from some people,
Great.
and some of them would like to be fluent in English. This is a very good topic for
Mm,
most people.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get time here to cover even half the questions that are I've received or the ones that are being talked about out there, but we can start with the big ones.
Right, you're absolutely right. We can
Ex-
answer the main questions.
Yeah, yeah. So, shall I start with one of the questions that I've received?
Why not? Let's start.
All
This is
right.
why we're here today,
That
to answer
is
the
why we're here.
questions.
All right. Um, well, the first question I've got is that do I think that taking a course in English that specializes in an area, so engineering, mining, pharma, biomedical engineering, do I think that a course like that will give an extra boost when someone applies for jobs in that field? And I certainly have a strong answer for that. But what do you think, Dina? Do you think that doing a course like this helps people get jobs?
Of course, I think a job like this gives you job opportunities worldwide, because engineering is in demand in every country. Either you are a biomedical engineer, a mining engineer, or any or pharma engineer, anything in engineering is in demand, and I think that you can get a better job, not only in your own industry, but also if you speak a language well, this will help you.
Mm. Well, I've certainly seen it firsthand. So, my background coming from the engineering field, being a technical expert, um, the people I see doing better are the people who can communicate clearly in English. English is the global language, certainly the language of science, the language of engineering. So, yeah, 100%. Improving your English, you will definitely see the paybacks in your career. I think very quickly. Mm,
Many people in engineering ask me about international jobs,
mm,
and some of these people do not have fluency in English, and they would like to climb up the ladder, get another job, maybe be promoted or something like that. But because of the lack of the English language, they're held back. And what they would like to improve is speaking better, have more fluency in the English language, so they can get that job, maybe do well in an interview, speaking good English and expressing their opinion, give good answers for the interview, things like that. And some of them also are asking about, let's say, how can they participate in meetings or
mm,
give good presentations. And this is something that they would like to work on. So there is a lot, that these people can do for communicating in another language.
Yeah, you raised a bit of a side issue as well, confidence. Speaking up in meetings is terrifying if you are not confident in either what you're saying technically or your English. So I know lots of people who just don't do it. They don't speak up. They don't want to say something, make themselves embarrassed by having said a mistake in their English, and so they don't speak up. And that can be really career limiting.
I think, Kirsten, you can be fluent, and if you have fluency in English, you're allowed to make maybe little mistakes here and there that maybe nobody's going to notice, but you can get your message through
Mm.
and you can communicate.
Yes.
Because some people can have an extensive vocabulary and they can communicate, but they are not fluent. So they can get their message across, but they lack fluency.
Mm.
So I think there are pros and cons here. So the people that are not fluent, but they can communicate, they can get their English in an advanced level by trying harder and
Yeah.
maybe, get to know idiomatic expressions, collocations, phrasal verbs, so that they can advance their English level. It depends at what level you're at because
Mm.
fluency isn't everything.
It isn't.
Sometimes people that are not very fluent can communicate perfectly well their message,
Yeah.
you know. And
If
people
they're
who are fluent,
confident.
sometimes they lack confidence, and they
Yeah.
cannot communicate their message because they don't have confidence and
That's
they are
right.
stuck. So it
Mm.
all depends.
Yes. As a native English speaker who has interviewed hundreds of non-native English speakers for jobs, who has been in many boardroom meetings with non-native English speakers, um, I think the fundamental difference between someone who communicates well and doesn't communicate well is not, in fact, fluency, but confidence.
Confidence is very, very important.
Mm. I make
Mhm.
mistakes. I think your English is better than my English. I make English mistakes
I
all the
don't think
time
so.
because I get lazy as a native English speaker and I don't care if they're correct. I've got my message across, and that's what communicating is all about. Um, that's just ultimate confidence as a native English speaker. So I think confidence is actually more important than fluency.
You're absolutely right. You have to build up your confidence because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe in what you're saying. So
Yes,
you
I
have to have
agree.
enough self-esteem, to be able to get your message across. People are not going to notice your little mistakes, but they are
Mm-hmm.
going to see that you are communicating. And this is what this is all about,
Yep,
communication. It's
yep,
not about making a little mistake here and there. Confidence is number one.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I think we can safely say improving English will absolutely give you an extra boost in your career.
Absolutely right. If you don't speak the international language nowadays, English,
Mm.
you're not going to get very far. As a matter of fact, me being myself a non-native English speaker, I can say that if I didn't speak English, I wouldn't have gotten so far myself. I
This
wouldn't
is,
have traveled that much. I wouldn't have had my own foreign language school. I wouldn't have been in Canada working in court as a court reporter, and then working in different companies. I got so many opportunities in my life because of the English language. The more languages you speak, the better it is.
Yes. And so you're in Greece and we've talked previously about the difficulties for people in Greece that don't speak English. Can you talk a little bit about that? You talked to me about that at previous occasions.
Yes, I am Greek, and in Greece is a very small country, as you know, and nobody speaks Greek outside of Greece. So we have to learn English and many other foreign languages as children. So as a child, I started English very, very young, and I tried to learn it well and practice, reading, listening, fluency, all kinds of stages, because I needed to, like all of us need to in my country, if we want to really work abroad, work internationally, or maybe communicate with other people, because nobody speaks our language. So if we would like to communicate with other people in foreign countries, or even in our country, because we have a lot of foreigners, they have to speak and communicate in English.
Mm.
So this is how my journey started, as everybody else's. And I'm very grateful that I speak English because I had the opportunity to travel, and I worked in Canada for some years. I studied abroad. I'm American educated in American universities. So if I
Learn
hadn't
something new.
studied English, I wouldn't have had all these opportunities in life. Not the opportunity to meet you, actually, or other people from Australia, yes,
Mm.
and be able to communicate with other teachers and experts in our fields, and not only. So I'm very grateful that I do speak English.
And you speak English very well. It's very natural. That might actually help you to answer the next question. So, one question that seems to be a little bit common, I certainly have heard many people ask me this question in the last period of time. So, the question is, when I speak, I feel like it takes me a lot of time to say a sentence. How can I speak faster?
Oh, I think for non-native speakers, it takes a bit of time to answer the question because they translate their
Mm,
own language into English. So this takes a bit of time because they haven't gotten to the point of fluency yet. So if you're not extremely fluent and you don't have confidence in yourself, and you think, oh my God, what am I saying? What is the next word? Is it right? Is it wrong? What am I gonna say? Then it takes time in your brain to translate the word A to word B in another language. And there is no fluency. And
mm,
so many people lack confidence because of that. But this is not the reason to just stop learning the language or trying to get fluent. It's going to take a bit of
agree.
time
Mm,
because you're not confident in what you're going to say. And this translation is going to stop after a while as you get to the next level, become more advanced. So,
yeah.
but in order to advance in fluency, you need to have all the skills: reading, listening, and speaking. So you have to extend your ability by reading more, speaking more, and listening to the English language. BBC News, for example, is a good
Mm,
way to practice your English, or CNN, or
yes.
whatever, that you can listen to spoken English. And this will go away. It's not going to stay there forever as you
Mm,
move to the next level. So no worries. It's just the beginning.
And I think that some of the pressure that English learners put on themselves to speak faster, it's like you're being a little bit unfair to yourself. As a native English speaker, I live in Malaysia now. And so when I used to go to work, um, no one's a native English, well, maybe 5 people total in the company are native English speakers. The rest are non-native English speakers. And I don't have any expectation that someone is going to speak fast. And so they're feeling pressured. I'm taking too long, I'm thinking too much. But from my side, I'm just, I don't think anything. I'm not judging someone's English because they're searching for the word, or um, it doesn't, it's not something that matters to me if someone speaks more slowly. Um, I just, I'm so pleased they're speaking in English and not Malay, because I couldn't partake in the conversation if it was in Malay. So I do think that part of it is ability. The more you speak, the more natural it becomes, the faster you become. And so, yes, group classes, speaking practice, all will naturally help that to happen. But I also think part of it is people being a little bit unfair on themselves and pressuring themselves to talk faster before it naturally happens, because they think people are frustrated or judging. Um, and I promise you, I'm not unusual. Most native English speakers don't care if you're taking longer to say a sentence. That's not something they think about. So,
What I think is if you have non-native speakers in a room, you will see that everybody understands,
yes.
because non-native speakers have a way of understanding each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if a native speaker comes in, then there is chaos. Why? Because the native speaker will start using idioms,
Yes.
phrasal verbs, collocations,
Yes.
and the non-native speakers will feel like, oh my God, what is she talking or he's talking about?
Yes.
Because maybe they are not familiar, with all these phrasal verbs and the idioms and the collocations. They're not used to that kind of language, because
Correct.
usually they learn English at school.
Yes.
And the English they learned at school is mostly formal English, a bit of spoken English, but not using many idioms and phrasal verbs. And this
Yeah.
is where the problem starts.
Yes.
So, what
That's a
non-native
really good point.
speakers have to deal with is to just learn a bit of idioms and idiomatic expressions and some collocations, and just have let's say a better picture of the whole language, so that they can use these expressions and idiomatic expressions and phrasal verbs when they give a presentation or when they are in a meeting, or if a native speaker is talking, be able to really understand in full. But this comes with time and practice.
Practice.
Practice, 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 as they say, practice makes perfect,
That would be an idiom. Yes, yes. No, you're right. It's interesting as a native English speaker that I quickly put someone into a category, and it's not a category that has any judgment. But if I am talking to a non-native English speaker and they're using idiomatic language and some of the natural language that native English speakers use, I speak faster. I use more slang. I use more collocations. My communication style changes. And when I'm speaking to a non native English speaker who is not using that language, then I stop using it myself because I've worked for a long time internationally. Um, and my level of communication probably changes as well. The more natural I am, the more expressive I am, the more information I'm sharing, I guess, um, than if I'm not using those expressions.
You're absolutely right. I can understand that. But
Mm,
what I like about what you said is that you can adapt
yeah,
uh, to the people that you're talking to. And I'm sure that makes people comfortable, that makes people feel more confident about themselves.
yeah. But it's taken me a lot of
Because,
years of training. I
yes, I understand that.
Many native English speakers won't have that training, so or that awareness even. Um, so yeah, if you're an intermediate native English speaker, not comfortable with some of the slang and natural parts of the language, I can only imagine how horrible meetings are.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
It's nice. It's nice to understand how the other person feels and what the level is, and you can facilitate the conversation so you don't make the other person feel uncomfortable, but feel
mm,
at ease and has the freedom to express himself.
yeah. Well, English is just a tool for communication. I saw a
Exactly.
great quote this week. Someone messaged it to me in LinkedIn and a DM that someone's ability to speak English is not a sign of intelligence. And absolutely, that's true. It's just a method to communicate. That's all it is.
Exactly. That's what I think as well. It's just a
Mm,
tool to communicate, nothing else. Like in every other language, actually.
yes,
And
yes,
I have to say that non-native speakers have to give credit to themselves because
yes,
they don't only speak English, but they speak their own language and they speak other languages. They speak
yeah,
about 3, 4, or 5 languages sometimes. So give some credit to yourself. Don't take a whip and just, hit all the
mm,
time. If you make a little mistake here and there, it's
yes,
normal.
yes. I make mistakes all the time.
Me too. Who doesn't?
All right, so this was an interesting question, and we've talked about this before in general, but let's talk about it here. Number one was a question about using industry terminology. So the question is, how can I find the right terminology for the mining industry? This was sent to me, obviously. We could change that to be farmer. I feel like there are too many words that I can't keep up with. And you and I have talked in the past about how much industry terminology we're teaching in our programs, I guess. And we have a different stance on that. Why don't you talk about your position?
I don't actually teach terminology because most engineering, the BM engineers or farming engineers are taught terminology at university. So I don't do that. I just teach advanced communication, English communication skills.
Mm,
But I think that you, as an expert in your
mm.
industry, you teach that as well.
Yeah, I do cover terminology because I've worked as an engineer for 25 years. Um, I don't teach the terminology. I teach the use of the terminology. So, risk is a really good example. Risk in the engineering world has a meaning quite different to the word risk in English. And so I do talk in my program about risk awareness, risk mitigation, all of the things that mining people need to use. And I look at the differences in the word risk and what it means in different situations. I don't teach the meaning of the word risk because everyone knows what it is, but we practice using it effectively. We practice communication about risk effectively. It's a huge part of the mining industry. I think it's big in most industries, but it's certainly more of a focus within the mining industry for many reasons. So yeah, I do talk about some of the terminology in that context, but probably I don't talk about the advanced communication skills as much, which is where you focus.
I mainly focus on advanced business communication skills and mainly how to give meetings, participate in meetings and be able to be understood using collocations, idiomatic expressions, phrasal verbs, as we mentioned before, and how to give engaging presentations, which has a lot to do with self-confidence. And I teach many ways that people can get confidence and really get up there and give a very engaging presentation, and everybody can understand them and feel that they have offered the value of the presentation to the audience. Because when you get up there, you just have to communicate, and you have to feel that the people, the audience, are here to listen to you because you have something to offer and you have something of value that they have to acquire from you. This is confidence. Believe in yourself. Believe that you have something to offer. Otherwise, why are you there? It's mostly a matter of confidence, that of communicating and of what you have to say, because most of these engineers are experts in their field. They really know their field very well. They know what to say. So all they have to do is deal with the language and have self-confidence, those two things. And the language they can handle very well if they are advanced level and they speak fluently. On the other hand, some of them are scared because they have to answer questions after the presentation. And maybe some of the locals, some of the native speakers, uh, when they question them, they ask them with an idiomatic expression or a collocation, and then they just don't know what to answer because they don't really understand what the question is. And this is what they're scared about, and this is what they have to overcome. It's not a matter of being knowledgeable, because they do know very well what they have to say. But this just take practice, and if they overcome their fear, they can do very well. The fear of being fluent and being understood and speaking well.
And I have to say, I mean, you and I have been having regular meetings now for quite a long time, because there's so many insights for me in some of these issues. It's a new appreciation to learn from someone who's had to learn this themselves. So the idioms, the natural language that we use, the slang, the pairing of words that we will accept and pairing that we won't accept, all of those subtleties that as a native English speaker, I intellectually know, but I don't emotionally know because I didn't go through the process of having to learn them and master them myself. So working with you has brought a whole new level of insight to me and my teaching about what those differences bring and how hard they are to master.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. For me, it's the
Thank you.
same way. Because I've got a lot out of you, and being Australian, I got used to your Australian accent, as a matter of fact, and I love it. And you've taught me so many things, and you've helped me in so many ways. So I'm really thankful for everything. And I look at you as somebody who's helping people to communicate in English.
But so are
And
you.
not only.
So are you.
Yes. We are both trying to give the best of ourselves to other
Of course.
people. And I think that many people can get help from us, and we get help from them because everybody has something to offer.
Yeah.
We are the teachers, but sometimes we become the learners as well.
Absolutely.
Learners, exactly. So everybody has something to offer, and a lot of times our students have a lot to teach us as well. So it goes both ways.
Absolutely. It's the best part of doing what it is that we do.
Exactly.
And you talked about my Australian accent. Yes, I have quite a strong Australian accent, which I have tried to moderate to be a little less strong an Australian accent. But this brings us to what I think I might use as our last question. So this doesn't go on for hours and hours. People get bored. The last question is, I want to get rid of my accent. And what strategies can you recommend?
I couldn't recommend anything. I love my accent. I love your accent. Everybody has got an accent. I used to work in the courtroom, you know, being a court reporter. I had people from all over the world, from any race you can imagine. I mean, all over. And everybody has got a different accent. I just loved it. I could take everything down because my ears are used to it. It's just to get used to the sound, and your ears are going to absorb everything. So keep your accent, be proud of it. Nothing wrong with it.
I'm so pleased you said that.
I love your accent. I love all accents. Everybody's different, and this is what makes life wonderful.
Your accent is part of your identity. It's who you are. It's where you come
got
from.
an accent, but so what? People can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. And that's actually the point I was going to make. Your accent in itself is not important because no one can get rid of their accent. You can sound more American, you can sound more British, but an American to a British person has an accent. An Australian to a non-Australian has an accent, although I don't think mine is an accent, but everything is accent. Everyone has an accent. Now, if the question is, I want to sound more American, please don't. We have lots of Americans in the world. Let's keep our French, Italian, Arabic, Turkish, Greek accent. Let's keep the world colorful. But yes, some people will need to work on their accent if that accent is so strong that the words in English can't be understood. That's the only time that maybe an accent needs to be reduced. And I talked about wanting to reduce my Australian accent because I want to be clearly understood by everyone in the world, not just fellow Australians. And so I've tried to not reduce my accent, but reduce the strength of my accent a little bit. That's all. But something as a native English speaker that is really important that comes under the heading of accent is everything else like intonation and whether you're using what we call a stress timed language or a syllable timed language. All the things, for example, in IELTS, when you're being assessed on your ability to speak English, there's an entire quarter of your mark in speaking comes down to this. So the intonation is whether your tone of voice goes up or down when you're speaking, and that communicates a lot of information. Your stress pattern, so English, we don't, every word in the sentence is not stressed equally. We stress for rhythm. We like to keep the rhythm of the sentence flowing. Some words get squished, some words get lengthened to keep that beat. So all of these things come under accent or pronunciation, and they do need to be understood and effectively used. But the sound of the words, please keep them. Makes the world more musical.
Yes, as long as your pronunciation is correct, everything else is okay. Accent, okay, if you have a very, very strong accent, as you said, then you need to work on it. But those are very rare cases that
Yes.
you come across.
Agree. It's very rare.
It's very rare.
Excellent. Wow. I picked 4 questions out of many. They were the 4 that I thought were going to be most helpful based on my history of questions. Do you have anything to add, Dina?
No, I think we almost covered most of the questions, the most important questions. There are so many, we need hours to just go through everything. So
yes.
So I think we've done a very good job.
Wrap it up there?
Yes, let's wrap it up there.
Idiomatic language as an example?
Yes, idiomatic language as an example, you're right.
Excellent. And so how can people contact you, Dina, if they want to find out more? Maybe they're a biomedical or a pharma industry exec. How are they going to find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, and if there is anything you would like to contact me with, or if there is anything I can add to your communication skills, you can DM me on LinkedIn, and I'll be very, very glad to help you with anything you need. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And likewise, I'm on LinkedIn. So we'll include the links to our profiles down in the comments, I guess. And anyone can reach out to either of us. We have a non-native English speaker and a native English speaker. I'm sure that between us, we can cover whatever questions that you have and help you on the road to improving your fluency.
Thank you, Kirsten. It was nice talking to you and to our audience. And I hope we could help some people, with fluency in English.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good value for me chatting to you. I always learn so much. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time too. Have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.